Have you ever heard the saying, don't let anybody rain on your parade, or the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, in VGC, these sayings are especially true, thanks to what we call weather wars and terrain wars. So what exactly are weathers in terms of competitive Pokemon, and why are they so important? Weathers are a field effect that changes the battle environment, and these different weathers can activate abilities, modify certain moves, and sometimes even damage a Pokemon or affect its stats or damage output. Weathers can be summoned either directly by a Pokemon's ability, such as Drizzle or Drought in the case of Kyogre and Groudon, or by using a move such as Rain Dance or Sunny Day. It should be noted, however, that speed does come into play when setting a weather, as if two Pokemon whose abilities both change the weather are sent out at the same time, the slower Pokemon's weather will override the ability of the faster Pokemon. So, as you can see, these changes in the environment can have a significant effect on how your Pokemon or your opponent's Pokemon perform during a battle. So, let's go over the 4 types of weather that you'll see in VGC. The first weather that you'll see in VGC is rain. Rain lasts for 5 turns and boosts the power of water-type moves by 50% while also lowering the power of fire-type moves by 50%. Rain also affects a variety of moves in different ways. For example, it increases the accuracy of certain moves such as Thunder, Hurricane, Bleak Wind Storm, Wild Bolt Storm, and Sandsear Storm to 100%. It also changes the move Weather Ball to a water-type move and doubles its power, halves the power of Solar Beam and Solar Blade, causes Moonlight, Synthesis, and Morning Sun to recover 1/4 of max HP, and lastly, allows the typically 2-turn move Electro Shot to be used instantly. Rain also activates certain Pokemon abilities, such as Swift Swim, Hydration, Rain Dish, and Dry Skin. For the sake of time, we'll go more in depth about these abilities in a separate video. Oftentimes, whole teams are built around a Pokemon with the ability to summon the rain automatically. This ability is called Drizzle, which summons the rain upon the Pokemon entering the battle. For example, when Kyogre is switched into battle, you'll see that it automatically summons the rain with it. Another way that the rain can be summoned is by using a move called Rain Dance. Oftentimes, trainers will opt to teach this move to a Pokemon with the ability Prankster, such as Tornadus, since Prankster gives priority to status moves. Feel free to review what status moves are in the previous video where we went over move types. I'll link it here. The next weather that you'll see in VGC is Sun. Sun lasts for 5 turns and boosts the power of fire-type moves by 50% while also lowering the power of water-type moves by 50%. Much like the rain, Sun also affects a variety of moves in different ways. For example, Sun allows the typically 2-turn moves Solar Blade and Solar Beam to be used instantly, causes Growth to increase attack and special attack by 2 stages each, changes Weather Ball to a fire-type move and doubles its power, prevents Pokemon from becoming frozen, causes Moonlight, Synthesis, and Morning Sun to heal 2/3 of max HP, lowers the accuracy of Thunder and Hurricane to 50%, and lastly actually boosts the power of the water-type move Hydro Steam by 50%. Additionally, like the rain, Sun also activates certain Pokemon's abilities, such as Chlorophyll, Dry Skin, Leaf Guard, Solar Power, Photosynthesis, and Orichalcum Pulse. Just like rain teams, trainers also often opt to build whole teams around a Pokemon whose ability can automatically summon the sun. This ability is called Drought, which summons the sun upon the Pokemon entering the battle. However, it should be noted that the ability Orichalcum Pulse is also able to summon the sun automatically as well. For example, however, when Groudon is switched into battle, you'll see that it automatically summons the sun with it. Another way that the sun can be summoned is by using a move called Sunny Day. Once again, trainers will often opt to teach this move to a Pokemon with the ability Prankster, such as Whimsicott, since Prankster gives priority to status moves. Another weather that you might see in VGC is Snow. Snow lasts for 5 turns and raises the defense of all Ice-type Pokemon by 50%. Just like Rain and Sun, Snow also affects different moves as well. For example, Snow changes Weather Ball to an Ice-type move and doubles its power, allows Blizzard to be 100% accurate, halves the power of Solar Beam and Solar Blade, causes Moonlight, Synthesis, and Morning Sun to recover 1/4 of max HP, and, most importantly, allows the move Aurora Veil to be used. Snow can also activate certain Pokemon abilities, such as Ice Body, Snow Cloak, and Slush Rush. Unlike Rain and Sun, however, trainers do not always build a Snow team, and often choose one Pokemon with the ability Snow Warning that can both summon summon the snow and set Aurora Veil in order to gain the benefit of the Veil without having to commit to a full team of Ice-type Pokemon. For example, trainers will often add Alolan Ninetales to a team for its ability Snow Warning, which summons the snow upon joining the battle. And conveniently, Alolan Ninetales also learns the move Aurora Veil. Snow can also be summoned by using the move Snowscape, which trainers typically teach to a prankster Pokemon, or by using the move Chilly Reception. The last weather that you'll see in VGC is Sand. Sand lasts for 5 turns, boosts the special defense of all Rock-type Pokemon by 50%, and at the end of each turn, damages all Pokemon that are not Rock, Steel, or Ground types by 1/16 of their max HP, making it the only weather with chip damage. Pokemon with the abilities Sand Force, Sand Rush, Sand Veil, Magic Guard, Overcoat, or are holding the Safety Goggles item are also immune to the chip damage. However, like the other weathers, Sand can also affect certain moves. For example, Sand changes Weather Ball to a Rock-type move and doubles its power, halves the power of Solar Blade and Solar Beam, causes Shore Up to recover 2/3 of max HP, and causes Moonlight, Synthesis, and Morning Sun to recover 1/4 of max HP. In the case of Sand, oftentimes trainers do opt to build a whole team around a Pokemon who's able to summon the Sand automatically. This is to avoid their other team members taking unnecessary damage from the weather. This ability is called Sandstream, which summons the sand upon the Pokemon entering the battle. For example, when Tyranitar is switched into battle, you'll see that it automatically summons the sand with it. Another way that the sand can be summoned is by using a move called Sandstorm. So, as you can see, each weather drastically affects how certain moves and Pokemon will perform during a battle. But what about terrains? So what exactly is a terrain? A terrain is a field effect that affects the Pokemon on the ground. These different terrains can activate abilities, modify certain moves, and sometimes even affect a Pokemon's stats or damage output. Terrains can be summoned either directly by a Pokemon's ability, such as Grassy Surge or Psychic Surge, in the case of Rillaboom and Indeedee, or by using a move such as Grassy Terrain or Psychic Terrain. It should be noted, however, that just like weathers, speed does come into play when setting a terrain, as if two Pokemon whose abilities both summon a terrain are sent out at the same time, the slower Pokemon's terrain will override the faster Pokemon's ability. So, as we can see, just like weathers, these changes in the environment can have a significant effect on how your Pokemon or your opponent's Pokemon perform during a battle. So let's go over the 4 types of terrains that you'll see in VGC. One of the terrains that you'll see in VGC is Grassy Terrain. Grassy Terrain lasts for 5 turns and increases the power of Grass-type moves used by a Pokemon on the ground by 30%. Additionally, it also restores 1/16 of max HP to all Pokemon on the ground at the end of each turn. Grassy Terrain can also have an additional effect on certain moves. For example, Grassy Terrain halves the damage of the moves Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude, and also has the added benefit of making the move Grassy Glide a priority move. Grassy Terrain can be set by either the ability Grassy Surge or by the move Grassy Terrain. You'll oftentimes see trainers add a Pokemon like Rillaboom to their team who has the ability Grassy Surge, which summons the terrain upon the Pokemon entering the battle. Coincidentally, Rillaboom also learns the move Grassy Glide, allowing it to not only summon the terrain to help boost its other grass moves and help heal HP, but also take advantage of now having a priority move and moving first on the field. It should also be noted that the item Grassy Seed is also activated when on grassy terrain, which boosts the Pokemon holding the seed's defense stat. The next terrain that you'll see in VGC is Electric Terrain. Electric Terrain lasts for 5 turns and increases the power of Electric-type moves used by Pokemon on the ground by 30%. In addition, it also prevents Pokemon on the ground from falling asleep or being affected by Yawn. Electric Terrain can also be used to activate certain abilities such as Quark Drive, which boosts a future Paradox Pokemon's most proficient stat, Surge Surfer, and Rising Voltage. Electric Terrain can be set by the ability Electric Surge and Hadron Engine, or by using the move Electric Terrain. You'll oftentimes see trainers build a team around a Pokemon who's able to summon Electric Terrain with their ability, such as Miraidon, whose ability Hadron Engine summons Electric Terrain upon it joining the battle. This way, multiple Pokemon can take advantage of the terrain, such as Iron Hands, who has the ability Quark Drive, or other Pokemon who utilize Electric-type moves. It should also be noted that the item Electric Seed is also activated on Electric Terrain, which boosts the Pokemon who's holding the seed's defense stat. The next terrain is Psychic Terrain. Psychic Terrain lasts for 5 turns and increases the power of Psychic-type moves used by Pokemon on the ground by 30%. Additionally, Psychic Terrain also prevents Pokemon on the ground from being hit with moves with increased priority. Like the previous terrains, Psychic Terrain also affects certain moves. For example, Psychic Terrain makes the move Expanding Force a multi-target move, hitting both Pokemon on the opposing trainer's side of the field. Psychic Terrain can be activated by the ability Psychic Surge, which summons the terrain upon the Pokemon joining the battle, or by using the move Psychic Terrain. You'll oftentimes see trainers add a Pokemon like Indeedee, who has the ability Psychic Surge, to Trick Room teams. Since we know Trick Room teams like to twist the dimensions and make the slowest Pokemon the fastest Pokemon, preventing priority as a way to try and outplay Trick Room becomes key. It should also be noted that the item Psychic Seed is also activated on Psychic Terrain, which boosts the Pokemon who's holding the seed's special defense stat. The last terrain that you'll see in VGC is Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain lasts for 5 turns and halves the damage taken by Pokemon on the ground from Dragon-type moves. Additionally, Misty Terrain prevents Pokemon on the ground from being afflicted by status conditions such as burns, paralysis, etc., as well as confusion. Misty Terrain can be activated by the ability Misty Surge or by using the move Misty Terrain. You'll often see trainers teaching a prankster Pokemon like Grimmsnarl Misty Terrain in order to use priority to activate the terrain. This way, they're able to cancel out any opposing terrain or simply prevent statuses such as burns from Will-O-Wisp. You may also see trainers running Galarian Weezing, whose ability is Misty Surge, to be able to summon the terrain upon the Pokemon joining the battle. It should be noted that the item Misty Seed is also activated on Misty Terrain, which boosts the Pokemon who's holding the seed's special defense stat. I know, it seems like a lot, but I have just one more little thing to note before we wrap up. There can be more niche items, such as terrain extending items like Terrain Extender, or weather extending items like Damp Rock, for example, that increase the duration of these field effects. These items may not be as common, but it is something that you may want to think about. But as you can see, both weathers and terrains can significantly change the dynamic of a battle. And as an added twist, both of these field effects, weathers and terrains, can be active at the same time on the field. This is why you'll oftentimes find that overriding your opponent's weather or terrain is part of your strategy to get you to victory. Hence the name Terrain and Weather Wars. Talk about hectic, huh? But if you've made it this far, congratulations! You now know how the various field effects can greatly affect the battle and are one step closer to forming a synergistic team and winning strategy. So stay tuned for the next episode as we continue to dive deeper into the world of team building and competitive Pokemon. But that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode. Hopefully you found this episode helpful, and if you did, I kindly suggest that you consider subscribing so that I can continue to make content for you guys. And if you were already subscribed and you would like another way to support the channel, feel free to check out the merch store. There is a link down below in the description that takes you to not only my merch store, but also all of my other socials so you can keep up with what I'm doing on a daily basis. But thank you all so much for watching, and thank you to those of you who have joined the channel as members. I appreciate you all so much. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.